wholesale. And as we're kind of looking into 2021, how you guys should be planning for your wholesale strategy, what's different and changing within the wholesale market. As you guys know, who've been tuning in on a weekly basis, I'm the CEO and founder of Scaling Retail. I'm also the CEO and co-founder of Rental Co., a PPE business that we did about grossed over $2 million this year. So again, growth potential, lots of opportunity there in the marketplace. If you guys know how to quickly position and kind of get yourselves where you need to be. So as we kind of look into 2021, as we're looking into really kind of what the future is holding for the wholesale market, I think it's really important and valuable to recognize that retailers are shifting considerably. They are looking at strategically new business models and ways that they can kind of make sure that their offerings are really strategic to their customers, really kind of drilling down into what are the brands, what are their differentiating points, all the while keeping an eye on the fact that we've gotten into this crazy kind of markdown retail cycle of selling a lot of goods, buying a lot, marking down a lot, and then things having to go into archives and going into aged inventory. So I would say, as most of you guys are looking into wholesale positioning for next year, I would see kind of what your leverage points are in terms of MOQs. And so making sure that you have more flexible MOQs, I think will be really helpful. I think thinking about things like, building up some consignment or drop shipment value propositions could be really helpful for retailers. Especially as we're kind of thinking about, what are the different ways in which these retailers are going to be disseminating and delivering information. So wholesale 2021, we're still waiting to see how things are going to open up in terms of trade shows. I can tell you that the trade shows that did happen digitally did not do so with the scale and volume as one would have hoped. And those of you guys who participated in these trade shows obviously had a firsthand touch and feel and taste of just exactly how much business you can, or rather cannot, do in this kind of digital landscape. So guys, it's super important to realize that we are needing to find different kinds of ways of selling. Now, spoke with a client the other day who was talking about how do we do wholesale 2021, and we started ideas of kind of customized brand delivery packages for buyers. What are the ways in which we can, kind of capture the market and capture the brand in a very easy to digest and deliverable experience box, right? Or some kind of virtual experience kind of coupled with some sort of samples or some sort of product in the mail. So think of your buying strategy possibly similar to your PR strategy, which is, how do you deliver brand experience in a way that is not really kind of experiential, right? So I think that is important for buyers. Now, obviously, as we kind of think about the next stage in getting back into, markets, obviously right now, companies like Fair are doing very well because that's really, one of the primary distribution points for a lot of small brands. However, right, I imagine we're going to be seeing a host of other kind of digital native trade shows pop up, really looking to carry forward that experience. And then we're also going to be seeing, I believe, more curated kind of shopping experiences buying experiences as we start to see the release of more kind of rapid COVID testing mechanisms. So a lot of what we're kind of hoping for right now is, when do we start to see more social engagement happening? When can people actually start to host trade shows and events and go to showrooms, right? When do we start to kind of do some of this more in-person stuff? And then kind of how does that happen as we're also at the same time looking at things from the perspective of, rapid release COVID testing and restrictions and things like that. So as it stands right now, I would say moving into your wholesale 2021, I would start to be planning for what are experiences that I can deliver in box to potential wholesale buyers. I'd also take a look at what are the digital platforms that I can really invest in that I think are going to be a good push and a good drive where my buyers are at. And I would just take a look at all the different possible mechanisms. And then I would say, the ways in which I can actually be models I can enter into, so whether that's consignment, drop shipment, more flexible with my payment terms. But if you're a new brand, the question really should be, what can I do in order to get more visibility into the market? Now, from an internal business planning standpoint, you might even be asking yourself, well, what's the efficacy and what's the point of even going down the path of wholesale? I continue to maintain that wholesale is a extremely necessary and viable channel, even if you're looking at it purely from the perspective of like wholesale, right? I mean, from marketing. So even if you're saying, well, I'm going to look at this purely as a marketing play because I believe that through the lens of this being a marketing play, I can, reach a new target demo. I can gain some social capital here, and I can start to be seen in the family of these other brands, right? So you really need, it's all about kind of building up that awareness, right, and kind of building up the visibility. I remember when I was, every time I shop through a retailer and I find a new brand, I might buy it from that retailer first, and then, the second time I purchase, I might be purchasing directly from that brand after. So I would say consumers are also very conscientious about putting dollars back into small businesses. However, being seen or sold on another platform does give you a lot of market viability. So it says, hey, this is a reputable brand. They've received some distribution, and so I think that's a good case in point. But direct-to-consumer brands are really important, and so if you decide to kind of pull back from wholesale and focus solely on direct-to-consumer, like my friends over at Entire World, where I love their sweatsuits and I've been living in them during quarantine, I would say that direct-to-consumer is going to be even more expensive to play in, right? So as you're looking at kind of the cost to play in this retail game for 2021, even just going into the rest of Q4, right, what we're seeing is, ad spends are increasing. It is more competitive. Your conversion costs are going to be much higher, 20 to 40% higher as we move into this election time period, even more so as digital landscapes become so much more competitive. Moving into 2021, all the brands who have shifted and migrated their marketing spends and their distribution strategies are going to be coming out trails blazing in 2021. So your market cultivation, right? What are the suite of tools and resources that you're using in order to help gain visibility? Wholesale is going to be a big part of that, right? It's a big part of it because it adds to so much of your, adds so many more platforms and layers to collaboration and social proof than I would say almost any of the other strategies can, right? Because it's in essence, guys, it's like a brand partnership, right? You're doing partnerships. So I would say, guys, wholesale 2021 is, it's going to be a little sticky. It's not going to be as tragic as it was this year. Be ready and agile with your MOQs. Make sure that you have a good understanding of your margins, of your pricing analysis. You definitely don't want to get caught in the dark in terms of, getting into a conversation and not actually knowing how low you can go. So understand what the contribution margins are for your wholesale. And if they're not in place, then it's possibly time you need to revisit your business models. If you are launching and you have yet to revisit your models and you don't understand kind of how to make it more optimal, then it might be time for you to have a conversation with someone like me to be able to kind of peel back the onion layers and make sure that your model is sound before you start to do all sorts of extra activations. I had to say that's probably one of the biggest issues that I see more often than not is a brand coming up to me and saying, hey, I'm ready to go wholesale, but their margins and their price points certainly allow for that. And so you want to be following a specific cadence of pricing. And obviously you want to produce it as cheap as you can, sell it for as high as the brand or the consumer market thinks it's viable. But at the same time, right, as you're kind of balancing all of that, the quality has to be there, the photography has to be there. So all of those elements that allow you to create that kind of high social proof brand really does need to be in place. And so when a wholesale buyer is looking at your brand, they're saying, well, what are you coming to the table with? What makes your brand so strong, right? Why should I be working with you? And so that's really them taking a look at your own existing social proof, right? So do you have a good Instagram following? What are your brand aesthetics, right? They're also looking at you towards the lens of partnership. So how does them carrying your product actually help them get more customers, right? How does it actually help them kind of raise the visibility and awareness of them as a retail brand? So everyone's kind of working on grabbing consumer market. Everyone's working on getting the right eyeballs. So you definitely want to make sure that you're not dropping the ball on content, marketing, etc., because that's going to help you with landing these wholesale accounts. Used to be back in the day, you have a wholesale business without any brand awareness, and you would get bought and you would just be like a strict wholesale brand. However, now because of DTC, you really need to be playing both sides, right? Wholesale and direct to consumer, if not just direct to consumer. So it's virtually impossible just to be a successful wholesale brand at that advanced contemporary market when brand, right? The concept of brand is so important. When you're at that kind of like off-price level, when you're just selling kind of more mass market, a lot of private label is happening, cheaper goods, the brand itself becomes less important, right? But I imagine all of you guys today are kind of out here looking at your companies from the standpoint of a contemporary, advanced contemporary brand, fashion brand, whereby what you stand for, who you are, et cetera, becomes even more important. So make sure you're building up your brand awareness, make sure you're really honing in on your campaigns and marketing strategies and budgets for next year, knowing that all of that's gonna really help you get towards that, goal of, getting out there for 2021 in terms of wholesale, hopefully online sales for yourself. All right, guys, that is all for me. As we kind of peel back stuff on Wholesale 2021, lots of interesting things coming up. So as far as, different ways of staying in touch and working together, it's really exciting to be able to collaborate with Embark and Makers Row to be able to do these kind of group Q&A sessions. If you are interested in kind of jumping on board to deep dive a little bit more into where the industry is kind of moving into, I'll go a little bit deeper into some conversations that I've been having with buyers, just coming up against the hour as we take a look at this more kind of refined conversation. So the big takeaways are, understand that your brand market positioning has to be strong, wholesale or DTC, it doesn't matter. As far as the nuances of negotiations, pricing strategy, and how to really look at these things and take the next step, I would really encourage you to join us for our 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern kind of smaller session on that. But otherwise, you guys can continue to see me here on a pretty regular basis. It's always fun and exciting to be able to share the things that are on my mind, things that are happening. Most of it's obviously rooted in marketing, but at Scaling Retail, I do operate as as a CEO advisor. So when it comes to leveraging some of the knowledge and expertise that I can bring to the table, I'm fully well versed in speaking to everything from how you're managing your cash flow and reinvestment of your P&L. As well as things like how marketing, sales, product, and operations kind of all come together. So as a now seasoned CEO of now having worked with lots of brands for a very long time, I can tell you that there really isn't anything that phases me, right? So it's all about how do you ask the right question in order to think outside the box. How do you guys start to learn enough about the rules so that you know how to break them? And that's really what this should be about. Building a business is not prescriptive, it's creative. Numbers are creative. They're meant to be manipulated, used, tell stories. And so the question you need to ask yourself is, what are my goals and aspirations of this business? And specifically today, how does wholesale kind of play into that strategy? Does it even make sense? And then further to that, as we look at building around a strategy of sales, marketing, operations, right? Financial planning. How do you kind of conduct everything in a way where the orchestra plays beautiful music? And if you do that efficiently, you can end up launching to great success. If you do that inefficiently, you certainly end up spending a lot of money, time, and energy, sadly, running in circles. So take your time, take a deep breath. 2021 is going to be insane. Q4 is already kind of been wild, which is cool. It's really nice to see that. And if you guys have questions, please feel free to drop them in at the 1 o'clock session. I'm really looking forward to diving a little bit deeper with you guys, and I'll talk to you soon. All right, have a great day. Bye.